Because internet-based television, it's such a new thing, like there are really no benchmarks yet, but what to you would be a success for the series?
I mean, yeah, it's strange because Netflix holds their cards so close to the vest as far as viewership. I mean, and even from us. So it's...
I mean, I was invited to speak at HowlCon, which is like the first annual lycanthropy-based fan convention. So, as far as I'm concerned, I'm already a fucking success.
Yeah, I saw someone draw our poster with the hand coming out of the wolf mouth, and someone drew a large cock beneath it. Fucking nailed it. I made it.
Yeah. But I mean, like, really, I would say that, like, ultimately, you know, when you're doing something creative, the only actual benchmark of success is whether or not you resonate with your audience. And so it's like, if the show finds an audience, then it's success, you know. However, Netflix, you know, like, plans to quantify that. I mean, that's as much a mystery to us as it is, you know, the rest of the earth.
What about casting?
Well, there's a lot of mythology behind this story. Like, did you have to do a lot of research to, you know, familiarize yourself with like the werewolves and the vampires? And
well, come on, everybody knows about werewolves and vampires.
We watched Twilight, yeah.
You know, it's in the zeitgeist. I know certainly for Chasseur, I sat down with Brian, and I mean, it took 3 hours for him to get out all the ideas that he had about Chasseur's inner world and her past. And those things are not always actable necessarily, but I love that, you know, as Joel says, it's part of the preparation and a part of what fascinates me about the job. But you never know how that's going to affect your behavior or your interaction with someone else. But having it there, experiencing it, and being interested in it in the way that your character is, and then having it, you know, inform you in your behavior in some unknown way. When you shake, you know, when Chasseur shakes Price's hand, that's the magic. But yeah, there was a lot and random, odd research, and not about werewolves or vampires. That was sort of the bottom of the barrel.
It's not really a werewolf vampire show.
Yeah.
Right. It's not. I don't see it as that at all. I mean, it says it right on the poster. The monster's within, and it's a human hand coming out of a creature. And it's more for me about the dramatic human interaction of how people are to each other when strange things start happening. Yeah. It's very Battlestar Galactica. It just happened to take place on a spaceship, but that could have been on an aircraft carrier. It could have been in a city anywhere in the world. This show is more about the monster within and the monster within all of us. And it's how these human beings interact with each other and do horribly awful things to each other. The fact that one of them happens to be a werewolf really is just besides the point.
It's just part of the world.
It's a part of the mythology, yeah, but it's certainly not. It's not a werewolf and vampire show. I would never tell it like that.
And conversely, you see.
Sorry.
Conversely, you see horrible monsters do amazingly beautiful and selfless things for people too. So it does kind of it shakes up your idea of what a monster is. Especially if you're in a town full of monsters, what makes you a monster?
Well, how was your bond, like in preparation for the roles, especially with achieving such a great chemistry with Bill? You know, what was the bonding process like, getting ready to film? Like, how did you achieve that level of chemistry?
In a strange way, I think Bill and I connected in a weird, strange way that Peter and Roman did. I think as soon as because Bill booked the part before I did, and I went down and did a test screen with him for my callback, and we met the day before to rehearse a little bit, and we rehearsed it a bunch of times, got it down, and then we just started talking about love. We just started talking about relationships and really personal shit, and it wasn't even, there was just no barriers for some reason, and for some reason creatively we saw eye to eye, and I think it was just immediate, you know, and I think it kind of showed in the test. So Brian wrote such a kind of visceral, vibrant transformation scene in his book, and when reading that, you know, I was kind of crossing fingers that they would sort of kind of stay true to it.
Yeah.
And I think they did. I think they tried to make it as organically as possible, and they didn't try to use CGI as a crutch by any means. They definitely kind of went old school a little bit with it, and that they actually used loose pig flesh to kind of simulate like the loose skin and a lot of prosthetics. The makeup artist on the show, Francois, he was amazing and very articulate about it, and so it was incredible the way they did it, and they did it over like a series of months. We did like the physical aspect of it, and then they kind of went in and did the inserts as they needed it. So they definitely took their time with it, and I think it was definitely probably the good tool to draw people's attention to what the show could possibly be.
Lili, you had a very eclectic career, right? So I knew Eli Roth is a huge fan of yours, and was that how he approached you to join the project?
I don't even remember how it happened, but I just was really interested with what Netflix was doing, and it sort of reminded me of the 70s and Robert Evans and what was happening then, and this freedom that the directors and creators were having. And then I read the script, and I thought it was fantastic. I mean, it didn't surprise me it was based on a novel, because it had that sort of that depth to it and complexity.
How about your accent? Like, Freya, how was it difficult mastering the American accent?
Well, I was doing it 24/7 throughout the entire 6 months, so much so that I was even talking in my sleep in an American accent. And yeah, that's what I feel works for me to get the rhythm of the American accent.
And how would you describe Christina's interest in Peter? Because obviously it's very curious in the first episode, and we'll see how it progresses through the season, of course.
Yeah, I mean, being a novelist, she's just intrigued by people and what brings them to the emotions that they have and what motivates them. And, it's not every day that you come across a werewolf gypsy. And, when she does, she's just intrigued by him, and he has something in himself that she aspires to have in herself. And he's just this free character who's comfortable with who he is and has these amazing stories which she admires.
Now, what do you think it is that so you're in polar opposite worlds? What is it that about Peter that is so? Why is he so drawn to you, or vice versa? What do you think it is that draws?
I don't think that I could explain that. I don't think it's supernatural. The way that they completely understand each other, and I think it's relatable because sometimes you meet someone and you're like, wow, something is just meant to be here. Something is like we're supposed to meet, or there's some chemistry that just makes sense. And in this case, it's just like Roman sees through Peter's mask. He sees for exactly for who he is. Like he knows that he's supernatural. He can feel it. He just knows it, and vice versa. So it's just kind of this like unspoken connection of just understanding, and I just because I've never it's just trying to relate to it. It's just like if you meet someone that you fall in love with, for instance, it's kind of the same thing. It's like an unspoken thing. And you're like, whoa, this is just. So it's kind of it's like I was trying to do that reference to it's almost like falling in love, but it's supernatural. Just don't go there, Will. Which is funny, but because I can relate to that, but in this case it's supernatural and just understanding.
And fraternal.
But yeah, no. How do you that kind of
I think it's one of those relationships you don't want to discuss too much and always kills the magic, but I would say that I think just as much as there's so much ambiguity in the show and there's so much tension and just as much being a teenager and determining who you are, those boundaries are always so blurred, and I think that's what makes the show so fascinating. There's always that element of
There's this interesting dynamic about your characters with like Norman and Olivia. On the surface, they're very well put together, but on the inside, they've been described as
they're beautifully, they're sexually.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was referring to.
We're totally sexually angered. Oh,
I love it. But on the inside, I've seen your characters described as monsters. Do you guys see yourself sort of as?
Oh, who said that?
It was in the. But
Jesus Christ.
I mean, I would argue that everybody from the outside is going to say that Olivia's a monster, too. It doesn't take much
he
to
who is without sin
express
cast
that.
the first stone. That's what I say. Those pesky people. Sorry, I didn't mean to disparage what you were saying at all.
But what was the question is what you're going to ask now.
Yeah. No, I have this. If they are monsters. I mean, I think that.
I think we're all potentially a monster of sorts. I mean, who's truly good? Really? I mean, other than Mother Teresa.
Well, I heard a few stories.
She wasn't?
About her.
What happened? What she did? You heard stories. That little slut. Is that what you said?
That's the worst thing you can say. Oh my God.
Best quote.
A couple hours in. It's
I love that. Dirty mother.
Oh my God.
That's classic. Come on.
question. So the human monsters are on par with the monsters
With the
in
monsters,
the show.
yes. I mean, everybody's a monster, of course, I suppose. Present company.
Now, I asked this question earlier, but because internet-based television is such a new thing, like how do you benchmark success for this? Like, how do you measure?
That's the great thing.
That's
Netflix
a good question.
Can make
I
that
know.
up. If I were them, every show I did was a success. Would be a success too.
Oh yeah, it's a huge success. You
They
can
don't have
make
to reveal
massive.
anything. Yep.
It's a good question actually because there is this new. Well, if you think about it, we are very unique. This show, most of the House of Cards was based on a British television series, which was very successful. So you're going to get people who watched that series watching House of Cards. Arrested Development was a pickup from another, network. It wasn't it? Yeah, it's going to take it from somewhere else. This is the first truly original series that Netflix have done in this format, downloading it all at once through the internet. We're the first ever in the world, aren't we?
Yeah, I guess.
In that respect.
I don't know.
Well, second
I've
House of
never been-
Cards, but yeah.
Yeah,
But that's
there's been
adapted
web
even.
series, but I don't know if that counts as
No,
different.
House of
Yeah.
Cards is based on something else.
Yeah,
The
this
first
is original.
purely original thing,
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Yeah.
from a novel,
Yeah.
but
And House of Cards was already two seasons. It was,
so in
that's
some
how they set
respects
it up.
it is. It's like, well, what do you regard as being a success? Because they don't, they don't have that, that history of something like a network does. So it'd be interesting.
And they don't have to reveal their data. So, I mean, if I were them, I would show again and again and again and say how extremely successful they are.
You have time for one.
I mean, those challenges are there. It's for us as filmmakers. We call ourselves filmmakers because we really went into this. As a film, we've done a lot of network television, which it's been great. But where's it going with this? It is a 13-hour movie, and for us, it was like for only 3 episodes to go out to press. Really, to us, I felt, this is not doing this show justice. This show is like a roller coaster going up those 3 episodes, boom, 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 up that thing, and it takes off. It really gets exponentially so exciting after those 3 episodes. We set it up, and boom. I can't wait for people to see our 13-hour movie. I can't wait for that to happen because it's going to be,
And it's really one of those, because we knew that we would have large chunks. I don't know we knew 13 hours out of the box, but we knew they'd show a large bunch. You can set things up and not pay them off for a while. It's not like network television, again, where you have to feel like you got to, the killer's in this, scene, and at the end of the episode you got to explain who he is. Stuff that happens in episode 2 pays off in ours in episode 9. But unlike network television, where you may have waited 9 weeks to get there and you'd forgotten, in this, if you're binge watching, that happened 4 hours ago, 5 hours ago. And so we just felt like we didn't have to play to those expectations in making the show. We didn't have to sort of, I don't know what the word is, simplify it so that, the week in between each episode you could remember what the hell was going on. You don't have to do that on this. You can also go back and watch them again,
And being so conditioned to work under the other sort of model, after looking at the whole thing together, 13 binge watching it ourselves, there's things that you realize, wow, there's maybe too much music in this. Let's take it out. It gave us the opportunity to really go back in and let's move this around. This will make more sense if we do this. So it was a terrific opportunity to look at it all at once, and rather than, sort of being so, close up. It's much clearer. It's like one of those paintings, with all the little pictures that turn it into like a Lincoln. I was going to say.
So, Deran, you had parties, I guess, with the cast that I read about in the production notes. But, what were some of the more memorable experiences that you guys had bonding?
I think that in the very beginning, we'd show movies like Rosemary's Baby and The Shining and classic horror films that really, and even Rosemary's Baby, it's got a great sense of humor to it. And we said, listen, if we can play, and I worked with Polanski in the past and got to know him very, very well. He's an actor in a movie I directed. And he told me, he says, if you're going to do, and I call him all the time, ask for advice, if you're going to do something scary, make sure you can laugh at it too. I mean, that was his thing. And he gave me the best advice I've ever gotten on anything, which was, I was directing him this movie called Back in USSR with Frank Whaley, and I was trying to figure out this sequence, and we were shooting Communist Russia. He goes, what's wrong, son? And I go, I don't know, I have to do this right. I want to do this right. This is the right way to do this. He goes, I'm going to give you the best advice you've ever gotten. There's 1,000 ways to do it right, and there's 1,000 ways to do it wrong. Just pick one. And so I went back at the end of the day, and tears in my eyes, said, Roman, thank you. You freed me as a director. He goes, that's nice, son, but you picked the wrong one.